And we're back for Thursday Night Showdown. We have been doing a lot of best ball drafts over the summer. I think I finally passed 100 this weekend. I know you got a lot to finish up on, but I'm excited to transition back into our first episode of TNF. We got Lions versus Chiefs, September 7th, 2023. Are you ready to do this, Tyson?
Let's do it, bro. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, we're back, man. Oh, we did that main slate first look show. This is the real deal. This is a real deal show here for Thursday Night Football Showdown. First game of the year, Lions at the Chiefs. Chiefs are 5-point favorites as of now. We got some injury news to talk about. We got some Travis Kelce issues going on. Will he play? Will he sit out? It's hard to tell right now. So, everything we say in this show, we're going to have to kind of take two different scenarios. But I think it's obvious if Kelce is out, it's going to change the whole landscape of this slate. We'll kind of talk a little bit about how to handle that if that happens. Ellie, what's going on with you, man? Like you said in the intro, best ball. I'm finally winding down here. I'm trying to hit 300 drafts, but I think I'm just going to slowly sort of fizzle out as we get closer to Thursday Night Football, man. So how's your summer been?
It's been pretty good. I'm looking forward to just being done with best ball, to be completely honest with you. I think I'm a little burnt out on the drafting. I got hit this morning. None of my slows. So what I was doing with the $3.20 max to make sure I filled it was I did a bunch of slow drafts. I did like 7 or 8 of them. And then yesterday they all switched to an hour. And then this morning I fucking woke up to on the clock with 10 minutes with all 5 of them. I was like, shit.
Oh my God.
But anyways, it ended up working out. I'm excited to be transitioned back into this. So what are we going to be doing here this year? We're just going to be doing our normal Thursday night showdown Sunday night, and then I think we had something special planned for Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing all 3 of our our showdown shows that we always do every year. Monday Night Football is going to be a little bit different this year. We have a members only video that we'll be releasing for Monday. And the way you can view that is very easy. Click on the join button down below you there. There's a join button, and it's $3.99 a month, dirt cheap. Help support the channel. We really appreciate that. That'll be for members only on Monday night. So, for basically a dollar a video a month. And then we're also going to introduce some live streams in the future, but for now, that's what we're doing. It's a dollar a video, right? You can find that in the parking lot, right?
Yeah, go walk around a Walmart parking lot. You'll find $1, send that shit to me, and we're good for one of the videos this month. But in all reality, guys, like $4 a month, you're going to gamble more than that anyways. It's not much. We've been doing a lot of free content. I think it's been like two and a half years at this point. And we're easing into it with a little four finger discount, right? Or I guess that's probably not the way to say it. But yeah, join us, guys, when we start doing XFL content again. That will be for our subscribers specifically. And we don't want you to miss out on that. That's where with Tyson, you took down 15K on like the second week of that one. So, yeah. Showdown's our jam. Join us for Monday Night Football, and let's be successful this year, guys.
And we still got that, obviously, the free Discord. That's going to be huge during the season, especially like during a show like this. If you guys are checking this show out and the Kelce news comes out or some other news comes out, just jump in the Discord. We're all going to be in there hanging out. There's a ton of smart guys in there as well. So that's free. Just jump in there. We got a bunch of notifications set up if you want to get notified when people are scoring, with injury news, all that kind of stuff. All right, enough of this. Let's get into the actual show here. So Lions and Chiefs, this is going to be a good game. We did that first look show a few weeks back. I think that was like 4 weeks at this point, just because we're degenerates and we wanted to talk about football, like actual real slate football instead of just best ball. Some things have changed, as they probably, as we guessed they probably would. So we'll talk about that in a second, obviously. There's some injury news. Kadarius Toney should play. How much is he going to play? Is he a true number one? Is he going to be, on the field for 50% of the snaps? Like, what do we do? Who's the number one target? Are we looking at MVS, Sky Moore? There's plenty of value out there on both sides of the ball. So we can probably find ways to stack all the studs that we want. But I think we should do a very quickly brief sort of refresher on Showdown. If you have if you have experience in the past with Showdown, you know, I'll do a little chapter marker. You could just skip through this, but hey, it's always nice to get a refresher. Even us just talking about this as we get into this. It's been how long since we've done NFL Showdown? So, Ellie, talk to me a little bit about some very basics when it comes to Showdown, types of different roster constructions that you want to look at, and how are you treating some negatively correlated plays, like just general thoughts. And I have a couple of slides to show too from Cody Main. If you're not following him, you should be. So talk to us, Goose.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So Showdown's a little bit different than Main Slate. I think Main Slate, you focus on kind of having players who are going to have a lot more opportunity to get snaps, and you're really looking at starters, man. You're not going to go in there and play any backups and things like that. So that is a little bit different of a mind shift you have to be prepared for, and we'll see that a little bit more. This is a great slate to discuss strategy, because you have an elite quarterback and a bunch of random dudes catching the ball from him. So you kind of got to think about roster construction. Now, that being said, you have 6 spots. You have one captain spot that's going to score 1.5 times the points as the other players. So that's something you really need to account for when you're building your roster out. Right? If you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who you think is going to rush for 300 yards, or goddamn, is going to pass for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then rush for 2 touchdowns, right? Those are points that are insurmountable at captain. And, even though that there might be a cost discrepancy that you have to overcome because you decided to run Lamar at captain, those rushing points combined with those passing points are something that you need to overcome. So
because
there's a lot more opportunity costs that you have to be aware of when you're picking players. And I think that's something that we'll be able to show pretty easily here when we start building.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're spending 1.5x as well. So,
right.
So getting some of these top end quarterbacks who might end up being 20% owned, like we might see with Patrick Mahomes, especially with the Kelsey uncertainty. Patrick Mahomes is going to be 20+% owned in the captain. You have a Millie Maker with 500,000 entries or just something ridiculous. I'll have to look it up. But, if you're playing in that contest, which you probably shouldn't be, you should be finding other contests that are a little bit smaller probably. But hey, we all throw like $10 into these things as a lottery ticket. Playing Patrick Mahomes at captain is probably not the way to go, because you're probably going to want to get a guy that's a little bit lower owned there, so you don't have to completely punt on multiple positions. And plus, he's expensive. So we're going to have to play 2 or 3 punt plays potentially. Let's throw this up real quick from Cody Main. Talk through this, Ellie. So for our podcast viewers, obviously, I'll read this out. But basically, captain, wide receiver, plus quarterback is the most widely accepted way to correlate Showdown lineups. But still, 21.6 of all top 1% finishing lineups roster a wide receiver at captain without his quarterback. And those lineups are far more unique as a result. So captain, wide receiver, plus the quarterback, you get about 18 dupes on average. Captain, wide receiver, without quarterback, 9 dupes. What is this telling you, man? Like, these are all just averages and based off of a bunch of different slates. Like, if you were to play this strategy over time, it probably would work out for you, potentially. It doesn't mean that you have to just completely just abide by these rules on every single slate, right?
Right. Now, I think what Cody's trying to point out here, by the way, captain, wide receiver, and quarterback. We're captain, wide receiver, and quarterback, 18 dupes. You are going to be duped more just because the correlation part of DFS is so ingrained into us, especially with NFL, right? You go back and watch our main slate first look, that's what we're talking about. 3-1 stacks, 3-2 stack, whatever, 3-0. When we're building with Showdown, it's okay to be negatively correlated. So grabbing captain wide receiver without the quarterback is something that's fine to do. Now, what you need is you still need a little bit of a ceiling performance from that captain wide receiver, right? The captain wide receiver can't be 70 yards and a touchdown on 3 receptions while the quarterback has 303 touchdowns. So that's something to keep in mind. But to your point, right, you were talking about the Millie contest. That one, it's going to have almost 1.2 million entrants. So you want to be negatively correlated so that you can if you get a lineup that only has 18 dupes, I will actually think you're fucking cheating. Like, it's going to be really difficult to do something like that, right? I mean, think about it. You have X amount of slots. If you throw Patrick Mahomes in at quarterback, and this is something we were talking about with roster construction, all of a sudden you only have a certain amount of possible decisions you can make, right? You put in Jared Goff. then that list of possible decisions is just shrunk even tighter because of the salary constraints. So, being a little negatively correlated isn't the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'll read a couple more of these briefly, and go check out his Twitter account, follow him. He's got a ton of this out there. We ended up not putting up like 5 or 6 different slides because we just not going to have time. A few things you can do to improve your chances of climbing the leaderboards with a naked captain wide receiver lineup. 49% of top 1 finishing unstacked captain wide receiver teams included 0 additional wide receivers tight ends from their same team. 62% included the quarterback from the opposing team. Generally, these uncorrelated lineups win as a result of either A, the opposing quarterback outscores the wide receiver's quarterback, and salary constraints make it impossible to play both. B, one wide receiver gets a vast majority of the pass catching production, or C, a combination of the two. What is this telling you?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we were just talking about. I think, one of the easiest examples of this is running a wide receiver, captain, a running back, or a kicker as your second, and then running back with 4 from the other team, which is something that we might be doing here on this Kansas City game that we got coming up. Might be a little different because I think I'm going to target Patrick Mahomes at captain, but, we can build a couple lineups with like Tony and, Jerick McKinnon, and then 4-man run back, and we'll see something similar to what he's talking about.
I look at top 1% finishing captain quarterback lineups paired with 1.8 same team wide receiver tight end on the average. 26% of the lineups paired with exactly 1 wide receiver tight end. The big one here is 50% paired with 2, 17% paired with 3, and 58% use exactly 0 or use exactly 1 opposing wide receiver tight end. We'll keep this moving here. The last one here to talk about is we're pretty big on 4-2s and 2-4s. Like a lot of times 2-4s to me are like really fun to do, and you can build some really interesting, unique lineups. But if you're looking here, it looks like in the top 1% finishing 4-2, 2-4 lineups, 78% of those roster a captain from the 4 side. So that's a 4-2. And 21% roster a captain from the 2 side. That's a 2-4. So look, I mean, are you going to fall on the one night where it's the 21%? Who knows? Like, I'm not going to eliminate those 2-4s at all, just because over time, most likely it's going to be a 4-2. But we know that. That's why we're playing some of these more interesting builds like 2-4s. Thoughts here?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, so when we get into Showdown, you guys will hear me talk about it most of the season, but I'll almost exclusively play 4-2, 2-4s. And it's really because of this. They're generally just positive EV if you're building these lineups throughout the course of a season. But again, like, we don't want to get too trapped into one mindset. This works if, there's like a mispricing as far as like the Vegas line is a little bit mispriced, or like in this game, it's going to be interesting. The Chiefs are going to be obvious favorites, and there's going to be plenty of value, especially if Kelsey sits, right? So I think a 4-2 and a 2-4 is actually a great approach for this. It's only a 5-point spread. I think people are going to probably be drawn to 3-3s. So, I think that it gives you a little bit of flexibility, but yeah, man, it makes sense. 4-2 with 70, almost 80% of the captain being on the 4 side. It makes sense. It's not quite an onslaught, but it's a heavily favored team, I think.
Yeah, and using SaberSim before coming on the show, I've been crunching quite a bit. They've been updating the sims as we've gone along this week. Most of the lineups that I'm seeing that are the top end lineups that you're wanting to use are going to be 4-2s, 2-4s, 5-1s, that kind of stuff. Rarely was I seeing a lot of 3-3s, and if I did see 3-3s, it was usually some random dude like Khalif Raymond as captain. That sort of situation. All right, let's look at the first look here of this slate. Let's look at the Vegas lines. Like you said earlier, Ellie, this is a 5-point spread. KC at home, -5. This was 7 when we did the show earlier a few weeks back. It's a 53.5 point total, and KC is -230 on the money line. Now, if Kelsey's ruled out, where do you think this goes?
I think the line closes a little bit closer to 3.5, 3.5 points. I don't know if they change the total too much. Maybe it comes down to 52. But other than that, like the problem is Patrick Mahomes still the best quarterback on the planet, so he can get other people involved as long as those idiots don't drop the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at our injuries here.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
So I don't have a slide or anything for this, but I mean, come on, we know what we're talking about here. This is Travis Kelce, That's the main injury news we're waiting on. I don't know what's going to happen. In my opinion, they probably sit him out. There's no reason to rush him back. Even if the Chiefs lose this game, who gives a shit? Like, we've seen them sort of start out slow in the past, and they're fine. They lost Tyreek Hill. Everyone said they're going to suck ass. They came out, they were fine. So one game without Kelce, even if they lose this game, I don't think it's worth risking your season by putting him in here in this game. What do you think is going to happen with Kelce? And look, if Kelce's out, are we super interested in these backup dudes? I mean, they're not going to get as much volume, but they're going to be cheap.
So I think the first thing to point out is, right, the news that we have on Travis Kelce is that there was a little bit of swelling in the knee. Swelling will make it a little bit more difficult, right? If that doesn't come down, then his flexibility starts to become a question. In 2 days, that's kind of a lot to recover from, to be completely honest. So I would probably count on him not playing this one. I don't know. To your point, I just don't know that they need to rush him. Losing Kadarius Toney for an extended period of time, they'll survive. Kelce is a really big facet of this offense. We all know that. I still think Patrick Mahomes will do fine without him, but it will damper the offense a little bit. With that said, I don't think it really changes my strategy all that much if he's out. I think it just kind of reinforces what my initial thoughts were coming into this. I don't want to give away too much, but I like Patrick Mahomes at the captain spot, and then I like grabbing maybe one pass catcher with him. Right, we're looking at a 2-4 build here, and the running back with 4 Lions, and just seeing what I can do there. Right, if Kelce's out, I just think it forces Mahomes to be, I don't know, can he be more of a Superman? Can he be better than what he is? He's the guy who's going to have to make every single play. It's not going to be Kelce busting off a 70-yard run or whatever it is, a 70-yard reception. So, I think that's the biggest piece. And then obviously the Kadarius Toney news is the other thing that matters. When he's on the field, he sees a lot of fucking routes. He sees a lot of volume. Yeah. When he's not on the field, then he obviously can't see any volume. So it's not earth-shattering analysis there, but if he's just interesting because he's priced down too. So I think I don't know if this is giving away the house, right? But I don't know if I'm gonna have him at flex at all. I may just run a couple lineups with him at captain. Yeah. Just to hedge myself in case he does have 2 touchdowns on his 4 snaps.
Well, and I tend to think, look, I'm a Kadarius Toney fan. This is going to be another situation where I lose all my money one way or the other. If I fade him, I'll lose my money. If I play him, I'll lose my money. That's just how it works. But, he's my highest owned wide receiver in best ball. I don't hate that for the season long, but it's probably stupid. I should get a Kadarius Toney tattoo if he wins me some money in best ball this year. But in my opinion, if Kelce plays, do they sort of take it easy with Toney this week? If Kelce's out, do they say, shit, we need some dudes. We need Toney. Does he get more action? I don't know if anybody has the answer to that except for in that locker room. I don't know that's going to be something that's going through my mind when I'm building, but I do think that throwing him at captain is necessary for a handful of lineups, in my opinion.
So I do have an interesting. This kind of just occurred to me. This is 100% pure speculation, but we're going to get into this in a little bit when we have to talk about the wide receivers in Kansas City. Anyway, if Travis Kelce sits, maybe they look at actually sitting Rashee Rice, not activating him for game day, so that they can have a more physical wide receiver in Justin Ross or something along those lines and brought back in. If Kelce is active, then they don't necessarily need somebody at that size. And also Rashee kind of had some issues with drops over the past couple weeks. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
I think there's a good chance that either Rashee Rice or Justin Ross is inactive in this game. I don't know which one. I think some of the other wide receivers provide you some special team upside. So to me, one of those guys is probably going to be out. All right, let's get into this breakdown. Break it down. All right. So as you can see on the screen here, we're using SaberSim this year. I really love their product. These guys are top notch. Play-by-play simulations. They've just released a new version, the SaberSim Ultimate Plan, which also does contest sims. So, it's great. It's incredible to have, play-by-play simulations and have correlation built in, especially for Showdown. It's incredible. But the problem is, how do I choose the best lineups to use? That's the big issue with these contest sims. Look, they have for the basic plan, they do have a pretty awesome Saber score that basically takes into account the ownership, the contest size, and gives you some of the best lineups to use. But with the contest simulator, you're actually typing in your exact, the percentage of the pool that goes to first place, the exact amount of lineups in the contest, and the pay rate, the top 20% or so get it paid. And they're using that information as well as they're generating a player pool based on the contest of lineups that you're going to be going against. So it's huge to me this year. I think this is game changing. We all know about the Sim Wars. There's probably some great products across the board. I just personally am drawn to SaberSim, and I during MLB season crushed a lot of these satellites that got me a ton of value when it comes to tickets that I got for best ball. So this is what you're looking at. You're looking at SaberSim. Last year the past 2 years we were using Fantasy Cruncher. I've switched over completely. So here's what we're looking at. So let's start off with quarterback. Let me cue this up. Quarterback. So we're sorting by price here. You got Patrick Mahomes at 12.2K in the flex and Jared Goff at 9,400. Dude, Jared Goff at 9,400, especially if Kelsey's out. I like Jared Goff even more, and I think at captain he's probably a pretty damn good option at captain, because you're going to get probably like a third of the ownership on him. And look, we haven't mentioned Chris Jones is not going to play. That's going to create a huge disadvantage to this KC defense. So what are your thoughts on these quarterbacks? Like doubling up, like playing Patrick Mahomes at captain if Kelsey's out is probably going to be ideal because he's probably going to spread the ball around. And if he's throwing multiple touchdown passes to 2 or 3 different wide receivers and he's spreading the ball around, you're going to want to capture all those points at captain, right?
Yeah, man. Look, Detroit's defense. They made some changes. We got yelled at by somebody in the YouTube comments earlier on the way too early first look. So don't want to forget about it, right? Detroit made some additions to their defense, and they are going to get better as the season progresses. I still don't know if they're going to be able to show up a 2-time champion and this Kansas City Chiefs team, right? So. Look, man, I think the strategy here is pretty clear. You want to get both these quarterbacks. You have the salary to do so. Regardless of what happens with Travis Kelce, I think that there's still enough value, especially if Kelce plays, there's value on the wide receiver side of Detroit. So, look, I think that there's going to be some flexibility in salary. And honestly, I'm with you, man. I like Patrick Mahomes. He's probably my favorite captain play. But Jared Goff, I think he might be a close second or third. It depends on how much more I fall in love with the running backs on the Detroit side. But yeah, man, like I really like getting some exposure to Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes. What are you seeing over here? So it looks like SaberSim has some projections built in to support their projections, right?
Exactly.
So these are stats.
Yeah. So these are probably, I don't know exactly. These are probably the mean of all their sims as far as completion, pass attempts, pass yards. You see Patrick Mahomes here, 310 pass yards, 2.5 pass touchdowns. If you guys are betting props, like this is a valuable tool to look at as well. 37 pass attempts for Mahomes, 36 for Jared Goff. They're pretty close. I mean, the touchdown difference is clearly making a difference, and some of the rushing yards, 0.21 rushing touchdowns on average. So to me, like I haven't checked any of the props recently, but if Patrick Mahomes is like an over/under of like 275 or 300, you maybe jump on that. I obviously this will probably change with the Kelce news, but it's something to look at. Let's go to our running backs here. So who do you want to start with? Which team do you want to start with?
Let's just go Detroit right there.
All right. So Jahmyr Gibbs, if you guys are just coming into the season and kind of haven't been keeping up over the summer, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs is the starter for this team / another pass catching option. We could probably see guys like David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs on the field at the same time. He's 8,200. David Montgomery came over in the offseason. They got rid of Jamal Williams. 65 or 6,600 for David Montgomery here. These two guys are interesting. I think a guy like David Montgomery could absolutely score 2 vulture touchdowns on the goal line, while Jahmyr Gibbs is out there catching passes. We're on DraftKings. This is PPR. A guy like Jahmyr Gibbs is really interesting to me. He's 8,200, so he's much more expensive than Pacheco or McKinnon, but I think the upside is there, and the fact that we have a rookie, we just don't know what his true ceiling is, and we don't know what he's going to look like. He could absolutely crush in this game. So thoughts on these two guys?
Jahmyr Gibbs is really interesting at 8,200. I think the thing that concerns me the most is just this bullshit that we keep getting from the coaches, right? We're deciding like we're going to invent a new position for him to play or whatever it is. Like just hand him the fucking ball, man. Like he's a running back, just give it to him. Let him get involved in the pass game. So that's the one thing that concerns me. But there is a decent narrative to be had around the passing game. Their depth is pretty limited at wide receiver. So if he really has been showing some flashes playing the wide receiver or slot role, right, then this could be very similar to that Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara style offense that Sean Payton used to run, right, where you'd have Alvin Kamara split out wide and Mark Ingram in the backfield. So like I think one of the things that it would be interesting to me here is but first of all, I think both are excellent captain choices, especially David Montgomery at 6,600. I don't even know if you need to call him vulture touchdowns. He may actually have like 15 carries for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns as the lead running back. I think Jahmyr will probably have more of a kind of a split role between the duties. So I think you can capture a lot of the offense. You Jared Goff, these 2 running backs, and then grab a punt wide receiver or fucking kicker. I don't give a shit. So I think there's a lot of flexibility. I do think that I'm going to try to target the running backs in this game for Detroit, mostly because, I mean, Chris Jones is gone again too, right? So that doesn't just impact the passing game. That impacts your ability to stop the run, right? That impacts your defense's ability to understand what they're doing, right? And it's kind of funny because one of the reasons why Patrick Mahomes was on the contract that he's on was so that they could sign a defensive player like Chris Jones. So
yeah, right.
He's got to be pissed, man. But anyways, yeah, I love both these guys. I'll probably have a healthy exposure, especially if their projected ownership is coming under, 25%.
It seems like to me, if you look at the distribution of points here, Jahmyr Gibbs he's more of a boom bust type guy. He has a higher ceiling. Montgomery is one of these guys who you could probably count on, 6 to 10 fantasy points on, 6 to 13 fantasy points. He's probably a little bit of a safer bet, but he doesn't have nearly that high of an upside. Let's go over to the other side here for KC. So look, Pacheco's the guy this year. He's 6,800. He was nursing some injuries in training camp. He seems like he's completely ready to go. We haven't seen him on the injury report. He's 6,800. Jerick McKinnon's 5,600. Clyde Edwards-Helaire 3,600. So look, is this a 3-headed monster? We talked about this in our best ball situation, that show. We talked about this in the first look. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at $3,600, like he's on the last year of his contract. I don't think I'm going to get to too much of him, obviously, but I think I'm going to play some of him because this is the Chiefs. Just as soon as you think you've figured out how their running back room is going to turn out, they flip it on upside down on you. Pacheco is a guy that I like at captain, especially if Kelsey's out, man. They could rely on Pacheco a little bit more. Now, McKinnon, to me, on DraftKings, he's 5,600. I think he's a good captain option as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is just a straight-up punt play, but at 3,600, I don't think there's better value of guys who are going to be on the field much, much more. Where are you going here, man? Like, do you like Isaiah Pacheco as much as me? And look, I'm a huge fan of Jerick McKinnon. They brought him back for a reason. They re-signed him. He's one of these guys who can absolutely catch 2 touchdowns in the red zone. He can have 4 receptions, 2 touchdowns, and like 5 yards rushing.
Yeah, dude, I love these guys. I think I like them a little bit more for season long or best ball. I don't know how much exposure I'll be getting to them on Thursday night, but I think it's an easy way to build. Pat Mahomes plus one of these guys, right? Pat Mahomes plus Isaiah Pacheco, you capture most of the Chiefs' offense. Pat Mahomes plus McKinnon, same thing. And we do know that Pacheco is going to get a little bit more run. I still just see some of those powerful runs. He's a violent runner, man. I do like him, and I hope he kind of gets some opportunity to really be that guy. But I can easily see him being a 1-2 down back, and then Jerick McKinnon coming in for third down, 2-minute drill, 4-minute situations, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we got to take into account, and they're priced accordingly. So I think you need to be getting a little bit of exposure to these if you're doing some MME.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say.
I was just going to say Clyde Edwards. I was going to say Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man, set. Like, to your point, I don't know if you need to get to him. Now, if you do have any faith in him, that's the lineup to put into the fucking Millie, because he's going to be 5% owned or whatever. Yeah. That's a reason why you might want to play him in the Millie. And, shout outs to SaberSim. This is one of those tools that, because they're running the sims, it's a little bit easier to take stabs on some of these deeper guys, right? So like you have an idea, like, and to be fair, they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're actually showing you what their their stat projections are to kind of support the data. So I like that, man. It gives me a little bit more confidence in some of these deeper plays, and I think it's really going to come into play a little more when we look at wide receiver. But I think it's worth evaluating and just supporting some of the sims that they have or the projections.
Absolutely. If you look at receiving touchdowns, obviously McKinnon is going to have a higher opportunity for that. Rush yards, looks like Pacheco's coming in at 11.8 rush attempts with 51 yards and about 0.48 touchdowns. Obviously, a guy like Jerick McKinnon is probably not going to get that many carries. He's going to be more utilized in the pass game. As you see, it's about double when it comes to receptions over Pacheco. All right, let's look at wide receivers. So this is the big thing to talk about here for both teams, but mainly this Chiefs team, because we don't really know who the true alpha is. If Kadarius Toney's healthy, on paper, in theory, he's 7K. He's probably the go-to guy, but he's not healthy. This is a situation where he's coming back from a knee injury that he retweaked that meniscus that he got some surgery on just a few weeks ago, I believe. Now, the meniscus isn't the biggest deal in the world, but there's no reason to rush him out there if you believe that he can re-injure that again. He's 7K. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 5,400. Sky Moore, another guy who I think Sky Moore can actually just be plugged right into that Kadarius Toney role. And in my opinion, a guy like Sky Moore can be the number one wide receiver on this team for a few weeks until Toney comes back. 4,800 for him. Rashee Rice, 4,600. Look, he was one of these rookies that maybe, I loved him earlier on, because you got a rookie that's coming in he's kind of he's good. Like on paper, he looks pretty good. But he dropped a couple passes, in some of these preseason games. He didn't really impress too much. There wasn't a lot of buzz on him. And in my opinion, I think he could actually be inactive, but I don't think so. I think it's probably going to be somebody else. Richie James is one of these guys. He's 2K. Richie James, he's a special teams guy. He's going to get probably some punt return action. I think he'll be active. Justin Ross is this high upside guy that we want to talk about here. He's 1K. And if you watch that first look video we did a few weeks back on this matchup, we were super heavy loving Justin Ross. Not as much now, just simply because, look, he's $1,000. Back in the day, 3 weeks ago, we were like, this is our value play big time. I don't even know if he'll be active. Now, if he is active, I will definitely take some stabs on him. But you see, he's not really getting a projection. I think it's a very risky play, but if you're in this Millie Maker type contest, he's probably a guy that you want to throw in and get like a 1 or 2 captain lineups with him if he's active. You also have Justin Watson at $200, which I think he will be active. Thoughts on these guys? Who's your favorite? How are you treating this? Because this is like the Da Vinci Code. I don't know how to fucking solve this.
So the first thing is I apologize. I said the 1.2 million entries. That was for the main Slate Millionaire. This is $250,000 entry, or 250,000 entrants on the Thursday Night Millionaire contest. That said, look, I like Kadarius Toney. I think my approach for him is really going to be just have a couple lineups with him at captain. We saw what he can do in the Super Bowl. They're going to get with him and Sky Moore. They both scored on like the same exact goddamn play, right? Yeah. So like that's Tony's bread and butter. Just put him in fucking motion and then in a slot and then have him catch a 5-yard out route, and then he's going to end up with a touchdown on 12 yards. So I think that he's a guy that you can put in at captain if you're looking to maybe get real unique in the Millie Maker. And again, not to keep talking about SaberSim, but that's why it's really important to be able to adjust your adjust your contest size when you're generating those simulations is because taking a risk on a guy like Tony, who could easily just have 2 fantasy points and 2 targets on the day, makes sense based on how many entrants are into your particular contest. If you only got 1,000 people in there, you don't need to fucking do that. You can play something else to get a little bit different and still be much safer. So, look, I like Tony. I think he's fine, but I think the guys that we really need to target here, I'm going to cross out Rashee Rice. I'm probably going to cross out Richie James. I'm going to cross out MBS too. I really don't like MBS. I think that he's fine once in a while. Again, if you're doing Millie Maker, I think everybody else is going to be crossing him out too. So I think he's fine getting a little bit of exposure to there. But I think Sky Moore's the guy, especially if Kelsey's out. I think Rashee Rice was supposed to be like what that we're seeing him as he's going to be this year's Sky Moore from last year, right? Sky Moore struggled early on. We didn't know what his role was going to be. But as the season progressed, we started to realize that Sky Moore was going to get more love. He had his showing in the playoffs, and then I think he's had opportunity to really fill in that role. He's going to be the number 2 wide receiver on this team. So I think that he'll end up supplanting MBS. And again, MBS is like the most meh fucking wide receiver I've ever seen in my entire life. Like Justin Watson is more exciting than MBS. So look, I really think Sky Moore is going to be that guy. So he's a guy I don't mind taking a lot of stabs on. And then again, when we get to kickers, we'll see. Like the salary's close enough on the kickers that you might be able to just spend a little more, get to Sky Moore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Spend more, get Sky Moore. Anyways, that was fucking dumb. Sorry, all. And then Justin Ross, if he's inactive, obviously don't play him. We'll post inactives in the Discord, and we'll be chopping it up. Make sure that you guys have that information as close to lock as possible. Obviously, we're doing the show 2 days beforehand, and inactives come out an hour before the game starts. So chop it up there so that we can get that information to you. The other piece, though, that's really important is Justin Watson. If Justin Ross is out, like I'm just gonna fucking I'm gonna play the $200 guy. I'm just gonna fucking play him.
Yeah.
We did this shit all last year. I think that he's a fine punt. And if they're playing him over Justin Ross, we saw what Justin Ross was doing at camp. The Chiefs had him on the roster for an entire season last year on IR so that they could give Justin Ross a chance to play. If he's inactive, it means they really, really believe in Watson or even Richie James. And I don't think it's Richie James. I think he's really there for punt return duties and the occasional slot wide receiver role.
All right, let's go to the other side of the ball here for Detroit. Now, look, there's a lot of value to be talked about on the Chiefs, but Khalif Raymond's $800. Josh Reynolds is 28. Marvin Jones, 62. And you got Amon-Ra, St. Brown, the Sun God, 10.2K. Look, I think that people are probably going to kind of forget about ASB. I mean, his ownership in the flex projected maybe around 40%. We'll see if that changes as we get closer. But he's 10.2K. To me, he's a great captain option. He's a great flex option. He's going to get involved quite a bit. He's, in my opinion, one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league. If this year he was a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, I would not be super surprised. So obviously play Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's not going to be a situation where I'm limiting the amount that I get to him. But the big question here is who's the number 2 guy? Marvin Jones Jr. is 6,200. We saw during best ball, he's going in like the 230s. He's going like in the 20th round. There's a reason for that. And that's hundreds of thousands of drafts, millions of drafts almost, where people are like, nah, I'm good. I'm good on Marvin Jones until the 20th round. Khalif Raymond's $800. Is there if you look at the projections here, they're all right around 7 points. It's a toss up. To me, Khalif Raymond at $800. Josh Reynolds, even we've seen him in this offense before. We saw him with the Rams do okay. He's like a solid middle of the road wide receiver. Who are you going with here besides Amon-Ra St. Brown? Khalif Raymond has been popping in the Sims because look, getting a projection around 7 and he's $800.
Yeah, so that's one thing that you got to keep in mind. If you're using any optimizer and Khalif Raymond is getting anything over 5 points, he's going to get jammed the fuck in, right? His point per dollar play makes him one of the best plays on the slate. That being said, he's also probably just one of the best plays in the slate because there's nobody else to catch passes on the Lions. Now that's assuming that Gibbs isn't going to get as much run in the wide receiver spot or Laporta.
Yeah.
Or I expect them to get a little bit creative here, but I do like Khalif Raymond, and I mean they still have Josh Reynolds, right? That was the guy above him at 2,600.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I think both those guys are in play. I just don't know that Marvin Jones Jr. is somebody that I'm going to be risking it on. He's just mispriced, right? At the 6,200. If he was down to closer to 3,400, I think that he'd be reasonable. But Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond are probably the two guys that you want to target here. Now, don't shoot me, don't yell at me. But another guy that I find really interesting is Antoine Green. If he's active, they may end up playing him. He's another guy that I wouldn't mind taking a punt on $200 from. All right, they're going to be looking for another guy to split the seams, right? While Jamison Williams is out on his suspension. So I do think that they're going to rotate some pieces in and give these guys an opportunity to scream up the field for a breakaway score. And again, we know what MJJ, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, we know what those guys are. They're getting older, right? So with a new coach, a new system, you want to play one of these younger guys. I think Antoine Green's a rookie. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think they're going to want to play these younger guys and get them a little bit more involved. You need 5 wide receivers, man.
Yeah. Let's go to tight ends. We'll stay with Detroit. So Sam Laporta, he's 5K. Well, he's not getting a great projection. That could just be we don't know how they're going to use him. But Sam Laporta to me is probably your number 3 wide receiver. Does Brock Wright suit up? Does James Mitchell suit up and come in as the blocker? Do we see Sam Laporta in the flex moving around in motion? Who knows? But I do think that Sam Laporta is going to be one of these guys that people forget about, and we're going to see a touchdown from him in this game. That is my assumption. Now, is that enough to make him be optimal? I don't know. I mean, he's projected for about 7 fantasy points here. His ownership's relatively low. I want to take a couple shots of him at captain, just in case he has one of these crazy games, because we just don't know what to expect from him. But he does have high upside. So thoughts on Laporta here? There's really not a whole lot to talk about besides Laporta.
Yeah, I like. I really do like Sam Laporta. I think that he's going to be fine, and I don't mind the hesitancy or the kind of just the cautious projections that they have for him here. The one thing that we do need to just like kind of backtrack into though is what do we really think Jared Goff's going to do if he's going to throw for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns? Do we think Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds are going to be the beneficiaries of that? If not, then that means it's probably ASB and Jahmyr Gibbs, or ASB and Sam Laporta. So we just really need to think about that. And when we're building for Showdown, we're not necessarily building like, you're not just picking the highest projected scorer players that you think are the highest players that you think are going to score. Jesus, I think you know what I'm trying to say there. But you're looking for people that correlate well or that fit a good narrative that you kind of have, right? If you have we call it a game script. If you have a certain thing that you think is going to happen, then you need to build your lineup in conjunction with that. So if you think Jared Goff does go off, which he's got a pretty decent correlation score there, 0.28. Now, obviously, as that number gets closer to 1, it's a high correlation. But when we're looking at quarterbacks to any pass catcher, there shouldn't be a 1 correlation, right? That means they're just getting targeted 100% of the fucking time. So anyways, like that's probably an oversimplification. SaberSim can explain that a little bit better, but I like Sam Laporta at $500 or 5,000. I think he's fine. And then just real quick, don't sleep on Brock Wright. Again, we don't know what they're going to be doing as far as their offense goes because they are so limited at depth at wide receiver. Brock Wright did get involved last year. They traded TJ Hawkinson because he was their backup. So they wouldn't have done that unless they had some confidence that he could make impact plays.
Yeah, and Brock Wright is a perfect back of the end zone, tight end, on the 1 yard line, play action, touchdown sort of guy. And if that happens,
and if you don't play him, if one of us doesn't play him, he will score a fucking touchdown on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee it.
Oh yeah, Brock Wright, baby, it's gonna happen. All right, let's go to the other side here. Not a lot to talk about here. Travis Kelce's 12K. If Travis Kelce plays, do I want to play him? That's the biggest question. If he's active, how much is he gonna play? Like, the best scenario for everyone, in my opinion, is that Travis Kelce's out. That's going to make things a lot easier to make decisions because if Travis Kelce plays, he's still going to be high owned. And maybe he comes out and scores a touchdown, which is fine. But you're going to need at 12K on a showdown slate with this many lineups and this high of a total, you're going to need a lot more than a touchdown out of him for that 12K to pay off. When we originally talked about this in that first look video, I said, look, if there's one guy out of the big four, both quarterbacks, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Travis Kelce, who are super expensive, if there's one guy with a gun to my head who I'm going to fade, it's going to be Travis Kelce. Now, I don't love that, but the fact is he's $12,000. If he was 10K, it'd be a whole different situation. What are we doing here with Kelce if he's active?
Look, man, I think if you're really concerned, the easiest way to hedge yourself is throw him at captain and then not play him at flex. I really think that's just the easiest way to handle some of these questionable tags. But again, I just don't see that the Chiefs have any reason to rush him out there. If he doesn't play, then you can get a little bit of exposure to Noah Gray. I'm just still not sure that paying $2,400 is a good price for him. I think I'm just going to go back to Justin Watson at that point. But look, man, obviously Kelce is the biggest part of the play. The only thing that I really have to say about that is if you don't, get your main source of news from ESPN, Ian Rappaport, NFL.com, then of course you can rely on us to provide some updated feedback on Travis Kelce on his status on Thursday night. Join the Discord and we'll make sure if Travis Kelce is playing, because I'm sure you don't have any alerts on. But again, tongue in cheek aside, we do need to stay up to date with this information because that will change to say that if he's out, it really comes down to who's active on Thursday night.
And we should not be building lineups until inactives come out. I'll fuck around with some lineup builds. I'll mess around like we're going to do tonight. We're going to look at some lineup builds. We're going to hand build some stuff. We're going to crunch some stuff. But I'm not I'm putting my dummy lineups in and I'm not committing to doing anything until I know whether or not Travis Kelce is going to be active or not. All right, let's go with good old kickers and defense. Let's do this. Look, Harrison Butker's $4,400. That's a normal price for a kicker. Riley Patterson's $4,200. It looks like he's the guy getting the projection here. I'm sorry, I didn't look into the kickers before we got into this. Who knows? We'll be in the Discord sort of talking about this. It looks like Riley Patterson's the kicker. I don't know if Michael Badgley. I think he got released. I could be wrong. 4,200 for Patterson. Chiefs defense 3,800. Lions defense 3,200. Are we touching defenses in this game? Look, the one reason to come out and say this is we've seen in the past with the less preseason games, some teams come out a little bit slower and it's a little bit sloppier. I don't mean to point out the Broncos because that's a crazy situation, but those mofos couldn't even get the damn snap off. Now, do I expect that from either of these teams? Doubtful. My point is there going to be some mistakes? Like, is it worth playing the Chiefs defense or the Lions defense on a slate where you're going to go up against 250,000 lineups and they're probably going to be like 5 to 10% owned?
Look, I don't necessarily hate it. I do think there is some utility in getting some exposure to them if you're doing MME. If you're hand building 5 lineups, I don't recommend putting the Chiefs or Lions defense into either one of them. But to your point, right, sloppy play begets in sloppy defensive scores. Now the problem with that is, and maybe we need to do some research on this because this is 100% anecdotal, but it appears that the shittier the teams are, the lower the score is. But if you have two teams with really good offenses and then they're just rusty, defenses struggle, they're not in a rhythm, you still end up with a decent amount of points. You just end up with some bullshit garbage where the score is 47-17 and the Chiefs have 2 defensive touchdowns, but they didn't have anything else. So they finished with 12 points. I don't know. That was probably a terrible example, but it's just something to keep in mind. I'm not sure we necessarily need to go to these guys, but I'll tell you what, I'm probably more inclined to play the Chiefs defense than paying $4,400 for Harrison Butker. Yeah. I think you can sprinkle in exposure to the kickers. We should just record the soundbite already. You probably don't need both, but it's fine to play one if the salary fits.
And obviously, don't ever play kickers at captain. There is one night a year that maybe that will pay off for you, but over time, there's no point in doing that. No point in playing these defenses at captain this week. Of course, I say that, and Lions defense is optimal captain. The one situation that I could see happening, out of 1,000 different situations. Look, the Lions' offensive line is really good. No Chris Jones for KC. They're probably not going to be able to get to the quarterback as much. Could we see like the Chiefs struggle without their best player in Kelsey? And, maybe the Lions can, find a way to score a defensive touchdown or a special team touchdown. Yeah, that's absolutely in the cards. But, I'm talking like 5% ownership on my end as far as exposure. All right, let's get to our captain choice here. This is our Crown Their Ass segment. This is our favorite tournament captain on DraftKings. Let's look at it.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going with Patrick Mahomes. I'm going with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Look, Patrick Mahomes is going to be 25% owned in the captain. You're going to have to get a little weird in the flex if you're playing in one of these bigger tournaments. But if you're doing cash single entry, like there's absolutely no reason to not play Mahomes at captain, especially I know this sounds weird, but if Kelsey's out, still most likely they're going to put up 25 real life points. Those points have to go somewhere. Those passing yards have to go somewhere. To me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably skill-wise, if Kelsey sits, he's probably the best player in this game. And his ownership is going to be a third of some of these other guys. So can I see St. Brown, the Sun God, getting 10 receptions, 150 yards, and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns? I absolutely think it's possible. Thoughts on Amon-Ra St. Brown? I know you love this guy.
Yeah, I mean, ASP is one of my highest exposed, top 20 picks in best ball. He's going to get a minimum of 9 to 10 targets, probably see closer to somewhat of 15. And without anybody else on the offense, he could easily see 20. So I love him at captain. I think we were talking about Jared Goff being my second favorite choice, but I really think it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then we'll throw in Goff. And then I think I'll decide between the 2 running backs. Now, just real quick, comment on the Mahomes piece with the ownership. I am comfortable playing Mahomes because I am also comfortable playing guys like Watson. If Noah Gray plays or whatever, I mean, that's still a little bit expensive, but I will punt and a 4% guy and just feel absolutely no remorse for it. So those are the ways that I can get a little bit different with Mahomes and not necessarily have to risk. And to be honest, sometimes, I know this is blasphemy, but sometimes chopping up first place 50 ways on a free entry on the Millie Maker isn't necessarily terrible, right? You win 3K to start the season, even though you might punch a wall because it should have been $1 million, but you're probably not soloing this contest. So it's okay to have a little bit of dupe there. Just be a little bit more creative.
Profit is better than don't do me, bro. I'd rather have cold hard cash than be unique. All right, so fades here.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
There is a photo of burning money in the background for a reason, because if Kelsey plays, I'm fading him. You're going to fade defense, which, hey, bold take to start the year off here, Ellie.
Look, look, man, you're right. I probably should have chosen Kelsey. He's just too goddamn expensive, if we're being completely honest. Even if he is healthy at 12K, just getting to him seems a little bit unreasonable. And then just, commitment to our diehard subscribers here. I promise that I'll have much more bold takes for you guys to witness throughout the rest of the season. Soon, it's just going to captain will just be the tight end of the night for Ellie. And we'll be there, and then we'll just have some bullshit fades moving forward. I promise you, we'll have something cool here.
Exactly. It's hard on the first week. Who knows what's going to happen? All right. So briefly, we're going to get into building a couple lineups, but I did want to talk about. I wanted to walk through kind of the process of building lineups on SaberSim. It's super freaking easy. The biggest thing I love, Ellie, you and I were both, we would do 4 or 5 different 20 maxes. We do the 25 cent, the $1, the $3, the 10 cent even sometimes if they're big enough. Trying to crunch out using a traditional optimizer, which by the way is just using median projections. It's not taking into account any correlation. So you have to do all your own rules, all that fun stuff. That's besides the point. The fact is, if I crunch out 100 lineups and I have all from different tournaments, I got to then open up the CSV. I got to ran between in one of the columns, and I got to randomize those, and then I got to, drop those lineups in. Now, some optimizers do have a randomizer thing for you that'll randomize all those lineups. But the great thing with this literally takes 2 seconds to enter lineups. I go to contest. I go to my contest. The thing I love, it's so easy, man. You literally click one button, download template. It automatically downloads that to your download folder. Drag it over in here, and now you have all your lineups and all your different contests. Now, the great thing about this is now I'm going to move over to my build, and I'm going to start messing with some settings here. So I have 222 lineups. Now, what I need to look at here is I have a handful of head-to-heads. So let me actually see what we're working with here. So I've got 20, 40, 60, 210 lineups in tournaments. So 210 lineups. The great thing about SaberSim is they're going to give you a pool size. There's going to be 5,000 lineups here. And based off of what you want it to do, it's going to prioritize the top 210 lineups that you are going to want to enter. So for this, let's see. I'm going to do over 50,000 entrants. I'm going to do 20 max. Now, here's the interesting thing here. There's this contest sims. So I have the milli already sort of typed in here. You can't really see it. Sorry about that. But 39% goes to first, 21% entries paid. There's 296,000 entrants. So that's the contest I'm in. So they're going to use that. Once we crunch out these 5,000 lineups, I'm going to then do a contest simulation, and I'm going to sort by that in order to find those 210 lineups that I really want to enter. So let's go ahead and hit crunch. Actually, we got to make 2 little changes here because of the DraftKings
rules.
Yep. So I'm going to click build lineups, right? It's going to build a 5,000 lineups pretty damn quick. You're going to see this. I'll speed this up a little bit here. All right. So that took less than a minute. We sped it up a little bit so you're not just sitting around, but that took less than a minute here. We have 210 lineups. You can change the amount of uniques that you have, which I highly suggest you do. But before I do any of that, if you look at the ways to sort these lineups, so if I go in and there's the Saber score based on the single game, which is your showdown type, they're going to give you based on what you plugged in earlier above 50,000 and all the ownership, they're going to give you some of the best lineups to enter into this particular lineup. You could sort by a lot of different stuff: projected score, ownership, geo mean own, all this kind of stuff. You can look at the amount of times that these lineups were sim optimals. How many times they actually were the optimal lineup. But now I want to go into contests. I'm going to hit run contest sim. Before I do that, actually, let me go back into the setting here. You can actually run 100,000 simulations of contests. So we got that settled. Let's hit run contest sim. That's going to take less than a minute as well. So we'll speed that up. All right. So you're going to look here and you're going to see sim ROI. You're going to see risk-adjusted ROI, win rate, ROI standard deviation, and the cash rate. Now, you could sort by all these different metrics. I'm going to go in here. This was my contest that I set up. I'm going to go, let's look at win rate. How many times these lineups win? This is the top lineup that wins. 3 sim optimals, win rate, 1.1%. And look at the ROI. Obviously, you just won $1 million. Right. So the ROI is going to be huge. Now, there are different ways to sort here. This is a relatively new product, so I'm still trying to figure out. You can actually weight different metric. So, like, if I wanted to, this is the best one to use is risk-adjusted ROI, and that's going to give you 210 of the top lineups based off of that. And you're seeing here Patrick Mahomes as the captain, and then a 5 run back. Like, there's weird lineups here. You're going to see because based off of the contest that I specified, these are going to be the lineups that are going to get you the best ROI. But there's different ways to mix it. You can weight the risk-adjusted ROI and the win rate. So, like, you can get a little bit higher, some crazier lineups in here, even if you wanted to. So that's something to mess around with. Now, uniques, I like to push these. Let's go to 2 uniques here, and you'll start to see in the captain spot. You'll see exposure, how much I have. Patrick Mahomes is my highest owned. And then in the pool, out of those 5,000 lineups, he showed up 24% of the time at captain. Let me push this to 3 uniques. So you start to see things move. 3 uniques are going to be, it's going to basically diversify your lineups a lot more. Now you're going to want to kind of make sure you're not pushing this too far. If we go all the way down to the bottom, this lineup here is ranked 4,308. Is that too much? It all kind of depends on your contest. If I go back down to 2 uniques, that last lineup is now ranked 491st. So that's something to play with. There's just so many options here. Now, here's what I love. All right, this is so damn easy. Click Save to Contest. It's going to bring up all your contests here. Now, I'm going to, let's sort by entries. I'm going to deselect all, and then I'm just going to select my tournament lineups. Let me hit Save to Contest, and unique random is what you want to use. That's what we were talking about, how we had to manually do that in our Excel sheet. Now you hit unique random, it's going to uniquely randomly submit those lineups into each of these contests randomly. I'm gonna hit Save to Contest, and it's in there. Boom, watch this. You click Download Entry, it'll automatically open up your Draftkings right to the upload page, and you hit Upload, and you're done. It's incredible, dude. It saves so much damn time, especially for MLB and some of these other sports. But look, if we're reacting to news, especially damn NBA, this is perfect for NBA. You don't have to deal with any of that BS. But if we're reacting to news an hour and a half beforehand and we have 210 lineups to build, we're probably going to need to utilize all that time. And it saves you just a ton of time. All right, enough with this. Let's actually hand build the lineup here. SaberSim isn't paying us or anything. Jordan over there, nice guy. These guys are always available to answer your questions. Jordan over there hooked us up with a version of this, and I believe in it, and that's why I'm showing you guys, because if you can afford to throw down on something like this, it's going to absolutely help you this season, especially for Showdown. Let's do this, Ellie. Let's build the lineup here. Let's build like two or three. Let's just hand build a couple. Where do you want to start? Do you want to build like more of a safer, chalkier sort of build, like with Patrick Mahomes at captain?
Yeah, let's start with Pat at captain. And then I think let's just start with Jared Goff right off the bat, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay.
We're obviously going to have to fade Kelsey here just because of the price we're paying.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm not sure I'm high on him anyway. So
if we got Mahomes at captain, we're going to absolutely have to throw one of his pass catchers in the flex, if not 2, right?
With Mahomes, yeah, I think so. I think you're fine, right? If you don't necessarily get to 2 of them, I think you can run a 2-4 and be fine. But I think the person that I really want to target here is Sky Moore. I think that's a good place to start for pass catcher on Mahomes' side.
100%.
And then honestly, if you want to throw another Chief in there, I wouldn't be opposed to getting.
How about McKinnon?
Yeah, that exactly what I was going to say. So what does that leave us with? Khalif Raymond.
Khalif Raymond. Where's he at? $800. I mean, you could. So Justin Ross is there as well, but this is a better. So this is a 3-3. It seems to me like this could be sort of unique, but this is probably a very dupeable lineup. But that's kind of the point here.
Yeah, and just probably should have talked about this a little more at the beginning of the show. We're talking about showdown strategy, a refresher, but especially in contests this size, we don't necessarily want to be maxing out the salary. If you do that, you're really limiting the amount of roster constructions or lineup builds that you can have. So it is a good way to avoid dupes. But again, do your best here.
All right, let's have some fun here. So let's do Amon-Ra, or let's do more of a tournament, like a weird tournament lineup for your Patrick Mahomes captain lineups.
Okay.
All right, Patty.
So let's go Pat.
Okay.
Goff, ASB.
Okay.
Can you do Gibbs? And I don't think we can do Gibbs and Montgomery, can we?
No.
All right, then go Watson.
Okay.
$200 Watson.
Okay. 3,700.
And what does that give us?
CEH. Just like you were talking about, or Reynolds.
Jesus Christ. I don't mind Reynolds, actually. I would kind of prefer to go 2-4 here.
Yeah.
Still leaving a little bit on the table. What if we pull out Gibbs and put in David Montgomery?
Let's see what happens. 5,300 if you want Watson as well. Laporta.
Yeah, throw in Laporta.
Not bad. I mean, these are the type of, this probably isn't the craziest lineup you'll see either. Like you just basically plugged in Watson at probably 3 or 4% ownership, but still probably a dupable type lineup. But this is nice. 2-4. We're fading Kelsey, obviously, in this case. Let's do an Amon-Ra St. Brown captain. So, Amon-Ra St. Brown captain. Do we want, if we're looking at some of this Cody Main stuff, like fade Goff in the flex? Well, I don't know. What do you think?
I like it. So maybe we just fuck it. We go another 2-4 here. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown and then David Montgomery kind of just being the core of the Lions build. You capture a lot of the offense. You could have all the touchdowns, to be honest with you. Yeah, there you go, Pat. You want to, I mean, we can get crazy. You want to throw in Tony?
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to lose all my money, but screw it. 4,400.
What happens if we put in McKinnon?
What does happen? 3,300. You got plenty. Yeah, you can do whatever you want here. So if you wanted to do a 2-4, you can go Richie James. If Justin Ross is active, you can go Justin Ross. You can do whatever you want here. Probably the best play is probably a guy like Reynolds. But look, if Travis Kelce is out, Noah Gray. Unlimited types of ways to build this. It seems like we've been getting a lot of $900 remaining salaries here. That's kind of interesting.
So what about this? Just real quick, bump McKinnon up to Pacheco.
Okay.
And obviously we're not going to have the same amount left over, but I think, still 2,100. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't get Noah Gray, but you can get Richie James. You could get Justin Ross, and obviously you can get your boy Justin Watson here. So look, there's just like so many damn options here. Did you want to build another one, or I mean, there's just we could build for hours. Let's just call it here as of now. But look, so sorry, my light went out. Actually, my battery went out, so I'm all dark here. But after going through this show, we did the first look show a while ago. We've already talked about this slate for hours at this point. What's really jumping out to you? Obviously, Kelsey. We need to know that news. Don't go hand building lineups, days beforehand. You're gonna have to wait until an hour and a half before to really know what's going on. What is jumping out to you here, man? Based on all the stuff we've seen, based on all the metrics and all the sims we've looked at, what did you come away with?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, pricing's still a little bit soft right now, and I think we need to take advantage of it. I think there's we just saw it was pretty easy to build. You still have to fade one of the big four. But for us, we felt pretty comfortable fading Kelsey already. And we talked about that on the way too early first slide. So I just think we try not to come into a show with confirmation bias. But, sometimes the writing is on the wall. I think we see what we see. And then the last note I said, hopefully Kelsey's active and, he just doesn't get any run. Take away 40% of the field just right off the bat.
Yeah. Hey, it could be a situation where that's kind of what I thought that Andy Reid was doing with Tony. He's just a decoy. And you're talking about the ultimate decoy in Kelsey. If he's active and dresses, look, if I fade him and he comes out and scores a touchdown and gets 100 yards, okay, maybe that might hurt me quite a bit. I don't care. We're gambling here. That's the leverage. We're looking for an edge. And if Kelsey is active, I don't think that they risk playing him too much. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. So we appreciate you guys. Let's get this video to 50 likes. That'll help us out a lot. Share the video. And obviously, like we were saying, Monday Night Football will be for members only. So just click that join button down below. You'll get some custom emojis for our live streams, all that stuff, some badges. And it helps support the channel. It's only $4 a month. Ellie, send us off here, man.
$4 a month, and go find a fucking dollar in a Walmart parking lot and cash app it to me. You'll get there, right? You can spend 30 minutes a day doing that shit. You'll be probably make $200-300. All right, that's a great send off. Have a great day, guys.
See you guys for Sunday Night Football. Later.